I think being an AG is the hardest job in the administration because you're really working for the president. You're working for us. You're working for the Constitution. You've got to do what's right by the Constitution and by the laws of the United States. And if the special prosecutor is what's needed here, that's what he's got to do, whether Obama likes it or not.
He's the guy that wanted Mark Rich to be pardoned. You know Rich?
I know all about Mark Rich.
He's the guy who went to Bill Clinton on the last day of the Clinton administration, who pleaded wait, Jamie, who pleaded Mark Rich's case, the biggest tax cheat in American history. Holder goes in, second in command in the Justice Department, says, Mr. President, give this giant tax cheat a pardon.
The big news of today is the memo. It's not Mark Rich.
I just tell you why I don't trust him.
Memo.
Unless you can explain to me why he did that, I don't trust this guy.
Here's the good news if you don't trust him. Here's the good news. He has now appointed another man. A prosecutor, independent of Eric Holder, a prosecutor, independent, who is a special prosecutor, who is now going to look into this matter that has been on the table since 2004, since before Eric Holder's time. The pressure has been on the Justice Department for years.
From whom? The ACLU?
No.
Not from the folks?
No.
Folks don't want
it. The pressure has been on from all sectors. Having to do with the memos of John and others, having to do with what went on at Abu Ghraib.
Wait, Jamie, you're crazy. Obama doesn't want it. O'Reilly doesn't want it. Those are the two most powerful people in the country.
The big O's aren't the question.
All the polls say 65%
the big
don't
O's
want
aren't
it.
the question.
There's no pressure.
The big O's aren't the question. The question is the Constitution and the federal law on torture and whether it was violated.
It's totally discretionary.
All that's being looked at here is whether or not there's enough evidence to investigate.
That's true.
If there's not enough evidence, we move on.
All right.
If there's evidence,
Leon
we
Panetta issues a statement today to his guys and says, I don't want this. And then Mukasey.
He's at the CIA. Of course he doesn't want it.
That's a good point. But Panetta's a Democrat. Says, I don't want it. Mukasey, the former CIA guy, goes, hey, if you do this, Holder, no foreign country is going to cooperate with the United States in intel gathering because they don't want to be dragged into any scandal. So we're going to lose all intel's drying up around the world. And you might be killed because of it, Jamie.
This is not about politics. This is not about
you're totally ignoring my question.
This is about... You didn't ask a question.
I did. You may be killed. You may be killed because of this crazy decision by Holder.
We have federal laws on torture for a reason. We can't just violate them willy-nilly, and if they've been violated, we need to prosecute.
You go to any war. You could have prosecuted Abraham Lincoln for suspending habeas corpus in the Civil War.
Okay, look, they're going to investigate. We'll see what they find, and then you'll have me back, and we'll talk about what they found.
I'll have you back if you're alive. You may be killed because of terrorists. All of that stuff's going to dry up, according to Mukasey.
I'll be alive, Bill Owen.
I'm sorry.
Talk about
Hayden. I made a mistake. I said it was Mukasey. It's Hayden.
Nobody's talking about those underlying issues. We're talking about Hillary's gender, but are we talking about wage disparities for women? No. Nobody's talking about the underlying issues of black impoverishment and school segregation. All we're talking about is Barack's appearance and skin color.
Wade and that issue.
And Barack Obama, who voted present and did not vote on a lot of abortion votes when they were before him.
So from a woman's perspective, that's an issue for me. Okay, get out of your head, girls. Get into your heart. All right, Jamie, black woman.
I'm not declaring on SJ.
You don't have to declare on national television, but you
have declared to my husband.
Don't you tell me you have not sat around with your friends, black and white, female friends, and not had this discussion.
I've had this discussion because I have dear friends who are working for Hillary, and I worked for Hillary, so there's a loyalty factor for me as well. And I've had this discussion because some of my closest friends are very high up in the Obama campaign. I also have friends working for Edwards. So I've had the conversation, but I got to tell you, Star, I'm not there yet.
You don't know.
Let me say this, okay?
Yesterday, we journalists, the one good thing about being a journalist is you never have to have an opinion.
You have an opinion on every single thing, girl. You have an opinion. Should I put my hair to the left or the right?
Let me tell you why, Star Jones, because I want to hear people talking about the issues. This is what the public has heard thus far, the portion of the complaint that now famously quotes you as saying, in part, this. I can drive a hard bargain if I don't get what I want. I'm not satisfied with it, then I'll take that Senate seat myself. It's a valuable thing. You don't give it away for nothing. Did you say this?
Well, I haven't heard the tape, so I can't say whether I did or didn't.
But did you say it? Do you remember saying it? Is it something you would have said or could have said?
In the political process, there's a lot of discussion, bartering, negotiation, leveraging. It's how laws are made. It's how things are done. It's how presidents are elected.
Did you make this statement as alleged in the criminal complaint?
I can't say yes or no without having heard the tapes. And I'm not going to just assume that they say that is necessarily the case until we hear the tapes. Now, I'd like to hear the tapes yesterday in the impeachment trial.
So you acknowledge that you might have said something like this
I'm not going to
in a larger context?
I'll simply say there were a lot of discussions back and forth, a lot of ideas thrown out. Some ideas were good, some were stupid, some were rejected. Questions I asked top staff and lawyers, can we do this, can we do that? That's the nature of how you govern.
Well, it's Halloween, and this year I'm going as the president, not as the president we have, President Bush, not as the president we may have on Tuesday, John McCain or Barack Obama. No, I'm going as the scariest possible president of all. That's right, President Sarah Palin, because if Senator John McCain wins next Tuesday, this woman will be a heartbeat away from the Oval Office. And maybe she's ready. Maybe all you need to be president is a good hairdo, a pair of non-reflective lenses, and a red suit. Heck, I've got all of that. Maybe I should run. After all, lots of Americans say they can relate to Sarah Palin, but I can't, because we just don't have all that much in common. She's a Republican, I'm a Democrat. Her kids play hockey, mine plays soccer. She lives in a state with a population of 700,000. I live in a city of 8 million. They hunt moose in Alaska. In New York, we hunt cockroaches. She's got a $150,000 wardrobe. Me, not so much. So what do I know? She's a maverick. She can see Russia from her backyard, so maybe she is ready to take that 3 a.m. call. But be careful what you wish for, because after tonight, I can take off my Sarah Palin costume, but Palin may just one day find herself president, and we all may pay the price. And that's the last word. Mel Gibson, then Kramer's racist rant, and of course, there was Imus. Now here comes Dog.
We use the word sometimes here. I'm not going to take a chance ever in life of losing everything I've worked for 30 years because some heard us say and turned us into the Inquirer magazine. Our career is over. I'm not taking that chance at all.
That was Dwayne Dog Chapman, better known as Dog the Bounty Hunter. And in that clip alone, the reality TV star uses the N-word at least a half dozen times. The great irony being his fear expressed to his son in that conversation that word might get out that he's a racist dog. Well, Dog, I have a simple solution for you. If you don't want black people to think you're a racist, then don't call us. Of course, this dog has been falling all over himself to apologize, so I guess he's learned his lesson. And maybe Imus and Kramer have too. But for all those folks who've not, here's a little advice on how to use the N-word. Just don't. And that is the last word. My parents taught me not to call names, to think before I speak, and to respect others, especially those who protect and serve our country. Once when I was about 10, I referred to President Nixon as just plain Nixon, and my father really got on me. But Nixon resigned, I protested. In disgrace, I added for good measure. So my father sat me down to explain respect for the office and for present and former presidents of either party. President Nixon, he firmly repeated, and that was that. Ever since, whatever my disagreements with a president, even the last one, I would never dare to disrespect any of them. But it seems my fellow Americans didn't grow up with the same lesson in public discourse. Take this exchange at one of the now infamous town halls on healthcare this summer.
What are you going to do to restore this country back to what our founders created according to the Constitution?
Has she read the same Constitution I have? Because the founders who wrote my Constitution assumed a basic respect for one another in the exchange of ideas. Glenn Beck clearly skipped his civics class, too. He dared to call the President of the United States a racist on national television. And now comes Congressman Joe Wilson, who called President Obama a liar right there in Congress. And now angry Americans are following suit, taking to the streets, calling Barack Obama a socialist and far worse. And yes, the right to protest is part of the fabric of our country. But listen up, America, because I'm going to say something that needs saying. It's an ugly truth, but it won't go away for ignoring it. We have a history of violence against our chief executives in this country. The protesters should know that, and if they don't, Glenn Beck certainly does. Joe Wilson knows it, too. He is a son of the South, after all. And this makes their behavior all the more shameful. So I'm asking you, my fellow Americans, on Capitol Hill, on national television, and yes, even all of you there at home, please think before you speak. And when speaking of or to President Barack Obama, only Mr. President will do. And that is the last word.